You step out into the dimly lit streets of 1950s New York. The cobblestones glisten with recent rain, neon signs flicker softly, and the distant hum of trains echoes through the alleys. Somewhere in Brooklyn, a man in a sharp suit walks with calm, measured steps. Paul Castellano, the Dapper Don, calculating every move, every word, every glance. Across town in Manhattan, another figure moves cautiously, eyes alert, senses sharp. Joe Valachi, a man bound by loyalty and fear, about to face choices that will change everything. Tonight you will walk beside them through shadows, whispers and secrets, and discover the hidden world of power, betrayal and strategy that shaped the Mafia, all while drifting gently towards sleep. The city never truly sleeps, not even in the quiet hours before dawn. You step out onto a cobblestone street in Brooklyn, 1952, and the world feels alive in its subtle rhythms. Streetlights glow softly, reflecting on wet asphalt from the evening rain. The hum of distant traffic mingles with the faint clatter of shoes against the sidewalks. Somewhere, a jazz saxophone whispers from a corner cafe, notes curling into the misty night air. You take a deep breath, the smell of roasted coffee beans and baked bread drifting from a nearby shop. This is New York, the city of ambition, secrets and countless stories waiting to be told. In these streets, there exists a hidden world, known to some but invisible to most. A world governed by rules written in whispers and shadows. The Mafia, families intertwined with the city's lifeblood, operating silently behind closed doors, their power subtle yet immense. You don't see it at first, you only feel it in the careful glances exchanged, the quiet handshakes in dimly lit hallways, and the knowledge that loyalty and silence are the most valuable currencies here. Tonight you are following two men very different yet bound by the same clandestine world. Paul Castellano walks slowly along Fulton Street. Even in the dark you notice his posture. Straight, measured, deliberate. His shoes tap gently against the pavement, echoing softly in the empty street. Paul's mind moves faster than his feet, already calculating, already planning. He thinks of numbers, of people, of alliances. His life has always been about precision, about careful moves in a world where one misstep can be fatal. You sense why he will later earn the nickname the Dapper Don, a man whose elegance masks a mind sharp as a razor. He pauses at a newsstand scanning the headlines. The city shifts around him, unaware of the quiet influence he already wields. Meanwhile, across town, Joe Valachi navigates the narrow alleys of Manhattan. He keeps his head low, hands in pockets, a slight tension in his shoulders. His eyes flit from one shadow to another. Unlike Castellano, Valachi feels the city pressing in on him. Life inside the Mafia has taught him fear as much as loyalty. Every corner, every door, every casual passerby could carry danger or opportunity. And he is learning, slowly, painfully, how to survive. Each step is a negotiation between courage and caution, each breath a reminder of the unspoken rules that govern his existence. As you follow them through the night, you begin to notice the rhythms of their world. The quiet of a family-owned restaurant, the hushed conversations in back rooms, the flicker of neon signs over deserted streets. Everything has a cadence here, a beat you start to fall into unconsciously. Your own heartbeat slows as you walk beside them, absorbing the pulse of the city, the undercurrent of hidden power. Paul pauses by a street lamp, adjusting his cufflinks. You notice the subtle glint of his watch, the meticulous care in his appearance. This is a man who knows the value of impression. In a world of whispers and quiet power, appearances matter. People respect him not just for his decisions but for the aura he carries, calm, composed, unshakable. And yet, beneath that elegance, there is an understanding of danger, a knowledge that every choice ripples far beyond the immediate moment. Valachi steps into a quieter street, the smell of pizza ovens and late-night diners drifting toward him. He remembers the first time he joined the family, the excitement, the fear, the strict instructions about loyalty and silence. The omerta, it's not just a rule, it's a way of life. To break it is unthinkable, yet he feels its weight every day, in every glance, in every decision. And tonight, the tension is thicker than usual. Something is shifting in the city's hidden veins and he can feel it, though he doesn't yet know what it is. You continue walking with them, through streets lined with brick buildings, beneath fire escapes that cast long, angular shadows. You hear a distant train rumble through the tunnels below, a reminder that the city never truly rests. You notice the small details, the faint graffiti on a wall, the metallic scent of the nearby river, the low murmur of voices in a bar that has long since closed to the public eye. Every element forms a backdrop for their lives, an unseen stage upon which history quietly unfolds. And as the night deepens, you sense that these two men, so different in approach and temperament, will leave indelible marks on the same world. Castellano, with his measured elegance and business-minded control, will reshape the family's operations. Valachi, with his anxiety and loyalty, will one day challenge the very code that binds the hidden empire together. But for now they walk silently, each lost in his own thoughts, each part of a larger tapestry that you, as the observer, are just beginning to perceive. The city breathes around them and you feel yourself breathing too, slowly, calmly, falling deeper into the rhythm of the streets, the whispers of power and the gentle pull of night. Soon the dawn is still hours away, yet the story has begun. And as you follow, you drift with it, carried by the soft cadence of history, the quiet power of choice, and the immersive world of New York's hidden shadows. The streets of Brooklyn in the 1920s are alive with the low hum of activity, though much of it goes unnoticed by outsiders. You walk beside young Paul Castellano as he navigates the neighborhood of Bensonhurst, where row houses rise in uniform lines, and the smell of freshly baked bread drifts from the local bakeries. The air carries a mixture of salt from the nearby harbor, coal smoke from factories, and the faint aroma of coffee from cafes tucked between small shops. Children play stickball in the streets, dodging pedestrians, while older men sit on stoops, chatting quietly, hands wrapped around steaming cups of espresso. Paul is small for his age, yet already he carries himself with a certain awareness. Every step he takes is measured, his eyes observing everything around him. The movement of people, the way neighbors interact, even the subtle gestures that betray intentions. He is curious, thoughtful, and quietly ambitious, though he does not yet fully understand the path that will lead him into the underworld of New York. His father, a tailor by trade, works long hours in a small shop, stitching suits that will be worn by men walking into offices, courts, and sometimes secret dealings behind closed doors. Paul watches him often, fascinated by the precision of his hands, the rhythm of the sewing machine, and the careful attention to detail. It is in these moments that Paul begins to understand the value of meticulousness, patience, and control, traits that will define him later in life. As Paul grows, he is keenly aware of the world beyond his block. He hears whispers about local families, about men who command respect not by wealth alone, but by influence, fear, and subtle power. He listens to the stories told by elders in the neighborhood, tales of loyalty, betrayal, and carefully managed alliances. Even as a child, he is drawn to these narratives, not out of desire for violence, but out of fascination with structure, strategy, and authority. He learns that every gesture matters, every word carries weight, and silence can be more powerful than speech. School provides a different education, one of rules, order, and social hierarchies. Paul is disciplined and attentive, often noticing things that others miss. He observes the interactions between teachers and students, the unspoken pecking order among classmates, and the subtle cues that indicate who holds power in any given situation. He begins to develop his own code of conduct. Listen more than you speak, act deliberately, and always maintain composure. These early lessons in observation and self-control are the foundation of the man he will become. In the evenings, the neighborhood shifts into a quieter rhythm. Streetlights flicker on, casting long shadows across brick sidewalks. Paul wanders the alleys, sometimes alone, sometimes with friends, learning the geography of his surroundings. He notes escape routes, safe corners, and places where people gather. His curiosity about the world beyond his home is tempered by caution. He knows instinctively that one wrong step could lead to trouble, even at his young age. And in this careful navigation of space and people, he is already honing the skills that will serve him as he climbs the ranks of the Gambino family years later. The Castellano household is a blend of warmth and strict discipline. Paul's mother emphasizes manners, appearance, and respect, instilling in him the importance of presenting oneself with dignity. His father teaches patience, diligence, and the value of quiet work. Together, they shape a young man who is aware of both the human and structural elements of the world around him. Paul learns early that success is rarely accidental. It is the result of preparation, observation, and the ability to act decisively when opportunity arises. By his teenage years, Paul begins to interact more directly with figures who operate on the fringes of legality. Neighborhood businesses, some legitimate, some not, provide lessons in negotiation, influence, and trust. He observes patterns, learns to read people, and internalizes the importance of discretion. Even minor conflicts in the streets or disputes between neighbors offer him insights into the dynamics of power, loyalty, and respect. Every experience is a quiet lesson, every encounter a potential blueprint for the life he is destined to lead. Through it all, Paul maintains a calm exterior, a controlled demeanor that earns him early respect. He is rarely impulsive, his decisions are deliberate, measured, and often strategic. Even small gestures, a polite nod, a well-timed smile, a courteous introduction, carry weight. People notice. They respond, sometimes unconsciously, to his presence. And in this way, the young Paul Castellano begins to build a subtle authority, one that will grow and expand as he steps into adulthood. As night falls over Brooklyn, the streets quiet down, and the distant sounds of streetcars and late-night diners fade into a gentle murmur. Paul sits at a window in his family home, watching the city breathe. The lights twinkle softly, and he imagines the paths his life might take. Already, he feels the allure of influence, the satisfaction of control, and the subtle power that comes from understanding the world before acting. It is a calm, reflective moment, yet the foundation for the man he will become is already solidifying, brick by brick, thought by thought, choice by choice. The rhythm of the city, the gentle hum of life beyond his walls, lulls you into a sense of calm observation. You walk beside young Paul, absorbing the lessons of patience, composure, and awareness. You notice the details, the scent of baked bread, the distant foghorn from the harbor, the soft shuffle of footsteps on wet pavement. Every sensory element ties you to the world he inhabits, preparing you to follow him further into the shadows and strategies of the life he is destined to lead. And so, as the night deepens, the story of Paul Castellano continues to unfold, quietly, deliberately, and with a rhythm that carries you along, not toward tension but toward understanding, reflection, and the immersive calm of history gently narrated. Brooklyn in the 1940s hums with a quiet, restless energy, a city on the cusp of change. The streetcars clatter along their tracks, merging with the distant wail of a foghorn from the harbor, the low rumble of engines, and the occasional shout from a corner cafe where late-night patrons linger over espresso. You walk alongside Paul Castellano now as a young man, still observant, still calculating, but already moving with a confidence that sets him apart. Every gesture, every glance, every word he utters is deliberate. Paul's transition from cautious youth to influential figure within the Gambino family is gradual, almost imperceptible. At first, it is in small transactions, discreet negotiations that go unnoticed by most but noticed by those who matter. He has learned the rhythm of power, patience, timing, and subtlety. A nod here, a quiet correction there, a well-timed intervention in a dispute, all of these build his reputation not through fear but through precision. People begin to listen when Paul speaks, not because he shouts, but because the weight of experience and intellect carries itself in every movement. At home, the lessons from his father and mother continue to shape him. His father, still working diligently in his tailoring shop, exemplifies discipline and attention to detail. Paul studies him closely, noting how precision in small tasks translates to credibility and respect. His mother emphasizes appearance, demeanor, and the importance of first impressions. From her, Paul absorbs the art of composure, learning that perception is as powerful as action. And slowly he merges these lessons into his own emerging identity, sharp, calm, and refined, yet always alert to the undercurrents of the world around him. The neighborhood itself is a living classroom. Local businesses, street vendors, and small factories teach Paul about negotiation, strategy, and human behavior. He learns the subtle ways influence works, the power of a smile, the effect of a well-placed compliment, the quiet force of observation. Rivalries among local families, disputes over territory, and even casual gossip become lessons in diplomacy, timing, and subtle control. He observes the older men who command respect, noting how many wield authority without overt displays of power. And so, Paul's reputation grows. By his mid-20s he is no longer just a young man in the shadows. He is an emerging strategist. His approach differs from many of his contemporaries. Where others rely on aggression, intimidation, or sheer force, Paul relies on subtlety, calculation, and a measured understanding of both people and systems. This distinction will define him as the Dapper Don, a man whose elegance and sophistication command attention, and whose influence extends quietly but powerfully. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Joe Valachi is beginning his own journey. The streets of Manhattan are different from Brooklyn. Narrower alleys, taller buildings, the hum of commerce interlaced with the hidden whispers of illicit deals. Valachi navigates them carefully, absorbing the lessons of loyalty, discretion, and fear. He is ambitious, eager to prove himself, yet wary of the invisible rules that govern the world he is entering. Unlike Paul, his early steps are marked by anxiety and hesitation, but also by a keen observational mind that will become crucial in his later role. As Paul steps into the Gambino family's inner circle, the contrast between his world and Valachi's becomes apparent. Paul moves through dinners with politicians, businessmen, and influential figures, mastering the art of diplomacy and the quiet control of resources. Valachi, meanwhile, learns the street-level operations, the enforcement, and the ceremonies that bind men together through loyalty and fear. Each man is shaping a different aspect of the same empire. Paul, the strategic architect; Valachi, the enforcer and observer. The city itself seems to watch them. Neon signs flicker against the darkness, casting long, angular shadows over brick sidewalks. The harbor hums with the slow rhythm of cargo ships, and streetcars glide past silently in the night. Everything is alive with possibility and danger, and both men navigate it with growing awareness. Paul's elegance makes him almost invisible to those who might threaten him, while Valachi's vigilance keeps him constantly alert to potential danger. Within the Gambino family, Paul begins to take on more responsibility. Meetings are conducted in hushed tones, in backrooms or private clubs, where every gesture and word is weighted with consequence. Decisions about business, alliances, and territory are made carefully, with Paul observing patterns, assessing risks, and calculating outcomes. His ability to anticipate reactions, to understand people, and to control situations through quiet authority earns him respect, and quietly, fear. Valachi, meanwhile, begins to internalize the family's code of silence. Omerta is drilled into him with each initiation, each lesson, each whispered warning. Loyalty is everything, yet he senses the tension, the unspoken threats, and the fragility of trust. He watches older men maneuver, negotiate, and occasionally betray, learning that survival depends not on strength alone, but on perception, judgment, and timing. Through long nights, both men reflect on their paths. Paul, in his sharply tailored suits, thinks strategically, imagining outcomes and contingencies, always several moves ahead. Valachi, pacing dimly lit alleyways, contemplates loyalty, fear, and the thin line between duty and self-preservation. They are two sides of the same world, moving toward collision points they do not yet perceive. In quiet moments, Paul strolls along the Brooklyn waterfront, the city lights shimmering across the East River. He observes cargo ships unloading, businessmen hurrying along piers, and the distant silhouettes of ferries crossing the harbor. The calm of the night contrasts with the intensity of his thoughts, offering a space to plan, reflect, and refine. He considers the family's future, the strategic alliances needed to maintain stability, and the careful balance of influence and discretion that will define his leadership. Valachi, in his small Manhattan apartment, leans against the window, watching streetlights flicker and the occasional late-night passerby. His thoughts wander to loyalty, fear, and the cost of mistakes. He senses that his path is fraught with tension, that choices carry weight far beyond immediate consequences. The city whispers lessons in every sound, the distant train, the rustle of papers, the hum of neon signs. He listens, absorbs, and internalizes, building the instincts that will later make him both an enforcer and a chronicler of hidden truths. And so, the two men continue their journeys, each shaping a facet of the same hidden empire. Paul with his measured sophistication, Valachi with his vigilance and emerging cunning. The city around them breathes, hums, and waits, carrying both the promise of power and the quiet tension of unspoken secrets. You, the observer, feel the rhythm, the subtle pulse of life, and the gentle unfolding of history as it prepares to reveal the choices, actions, and consequences that will define both men and the world they inhabit. The night deepens, soft and quiet. The distant murmur of the harbor, the flicker of neon, and the gentle shuffle of feet on wet pavement lull you into the cadence of New York's hidden streets. You walk beside Paul and Joe, absorbing their worlds, feeling the tension ease, yet knowing that the story is only beginning. Manhattan in the early 1930s carries a restless hum, the kind of energy that lingers in the air and seeps into every brick and alleyway. You walk alongside young Joe Valachi as he navigates the city's narrow streets. The sidewalks are crowded with merchants pushing carts of fresh produce, the scent of baked bread mingling with the sharper aroma of coal smoke drifting from the nearby factories. Streetcars rattle past, their wheels clattering against the rails, and the distant wail of a train whistle echoes from the tunnels below. The city is alive, full of opportunity and danger, lessons waiting to be absorbed for anyone perceptive enough to notice. Joe is not a man of finesse, at least not yet. He is small for his age, wiry and cautious, with eyes that dart constantly, measuring the world around him. Where Paul Castellano moves with calm precision, Joe moves with guarded alertness, learning the rhythm of survival through observation and instinct. His early years are marked by struggle, a mixture of poverty, curiosity, and a deep desire to belong. He knows the city is both a teacher and a predator, rewarding the clever and punishing the unwary. Family life for Joe is structured yet fraught with tension. His father works long, grueling hours to provide for the family, a stern man whose lessons are often delivered through quiet expectation rather than overt instruction. Joe's mother, nurturing but firm, emphasizes respect, manners, and the importance of earning trust. Through these early influences, he begins to understand that strength is not always physical. It can be the ability to read people, to act decisively, and to navigate complex social landscapes. School offers another kind of education. Joe quickly learns that the world is hierarchical, filled with unspoken rules that govern interactions. He observes bullies, friends, and authority figures, noting how influence and intimidation function, sometimes interchangeably. He internalizes the idea that every action carries consequence, every word and gesture can shift perceptions. And though he is young, these lessons begin to shape his understanding of loyalty, fear, and strategy, concepts that will become central to his later life within the Mafia. As he grows, Joe becomes drawn to the streets themselves. Alleyways, hidden corners, and local gathering spots serve as informal classrooms. He watches older men, noting how respect is earned, how alliances are formed, and how missteps are punished swiftly and quietly. Unlike Paul, who moves among businessmen and politicians, Joe learns the world from its shadows. Every encounter is an opportunity to observe, to analyze, to understand the balance between loyalty and self-preservation. Initiation into the Mafia comes slowly, subtly. He is introduced to men whose presence commands attention, not because of violence but because of the calculated way they carry themselves. Handshakes, nods, and whispered words convey more meaning than loud declarations. Joe studies each interaction, cataloging the subtle signs of authority, submission, and opportunity. Each lesson is absorbed, practiced in secret, until it becomes instinct. He begins to understand the silent language of power, a language spoken in gestures, glances, and the careful calibration of risk and reward. Evenings in Manhattan carry a different energy than the daytime. The streets quiet slightly, but shadows lengthen, and the hum of the city becomes a constant presence in the background. Joe often wanders along the East River, watching cargo ships and ferries drift by under the dim glow of streetlights. He listens to the distant hum of the subway and the faint laughter of late-night pedestrians. These quiet moments are when he reflects on loyalty, fear, and the nature of influence. He senses that his life is intertwined with forces larger than himself, that choices carry weight far beyond immediate consequences. Early encounters with crime are both frightening and instructive. Small thefts, local disputes, and minor altercations provide Joe with practical lessons in judgment and caution. He learns quickly that survival depends not just on courage but on timing, awareness, and the ability to read people. He observes men navigating risk and reward, noting the patterns of behavior that separate the successful from the unlucky. Every story he hears, every slight he witnesses, becomes part of an internal library of knowledge he can draw upon later. By his late teens, Joe begins participating more actively in the family's operations. He delivers messages, observes meetings, and gradually becomes part of the unspoken machinery that keeps the organization functioning. The omerta, the code of silence, is drilled into him repeatedly. Loyalty is not just encouraged, it is demanded. And yet, beneath his respect for the code lies a restless mind, one that questions, observes, and measures each action and its potential consequences. The contrast between Paul Castellano and Joe Valachi becomes more apparent as their lives unfold. Paul's world is one of elegance, strategy, and calculated control, while Joe's is street-level, tense, and immediate. Yet both are navigating the same overarching system, two sides of the same coin. Each learns the necessity of patience, discretion, and perception. Each senses the stakes of their choices, though their approaches differ. As the nights grow longer, Joe sits in his modest apartment, the muffled sounds of the city filtering through the window. He traces patterns in his mind, rehearses conversations, and imagines outcomes. The city hums quietly, almost like a heartbeat, guiding him in subtle ways. He is aware of danger, yes, but also opportunity, the chance to rise, to influence, to survive. And in these reflective hours, he begins to see the path before him, though its challenges and consequences remain veiled in shadows. Meanwhile, Paul continues to rise in Brooklyn, unaware of the exact intersections their lives will take. Both men are learning, adapting, and preparing for the roles that history will assign them. The rhythm of New York City, the whispering streets, the flicker of neon lights, all form the backdrop for their journeys. You, as the observer, feel the pulse of the city, the weight of decisions, and the subtle tension of lives unfolding in parallel, moving inevitably toward convergence. The night deepens, carrying with it the calm and quiet of the city's hidden veins. You walk beside Joe Valachi, sensing his growing awareness, his vigilance, and his internal reflections. The streets breathe softly, and the city hums a lullaby of lessons learned and paths chosen. You are immersed, carried gently through time and space, absorbing the subtle intricacies of a world both dangerous and mesmerizing, where loyalty, ambition, and survival intertwine in delicate balance. And so, the story of Joe Valachi continues to unfold, weaving alongside that of Paul Castellano, both men shaping and being shaped by the hidden rhythms of New York, and by the quiet, persistent pulse of history itself. The mornings in Brooklyn carry a muted rhythm, soft and steady, as the city begins to stir. Streetcars rattle along their tracks, the aroma of fresh bagels and roasted coffee drifts from corner shops, and the distant clatter of construction echoes from the new buildings rising along the waterfront. Paul Castellano steps out of his brownstone, adjusting the cuff of his crisp shirt, the sunlight glinting subtly off his watch. He moves with measured precision, aware of the world around him, attentive to both its visible and hidden layers. Today, like every day, is an exercise in awareness, discretion, and preparation. Paul's life in the Gambino family has evolved beyond mere observation. He has taken on responsibilities that demand judgment, diplomacy, and strategy. Meetings are often held in private offices, discreet restaurants, or the back rooms of legitimate businesses. The discussions are quiet, almost conspiratorial, yet every word carries weight. Decisions made here ripple outward, touching street-level operations, family alliances, and occasionally the attention of law enforcement. Paul listens carefully, contributes sparingly, but each intervention is deliberate, aimed at advancing the family's stability and influence without drawing unnecessary attention. Meanwhile, Joe Valachi navigates his own morning routines in Manhattan. His apartment is modest, but it is a space of careful organization, reflecting his growing understanding of discipline and caution. He checks messages, recalls instructions, and mentally reviews the operations he is involved in. The street outside hums with early activity, shopkeepers opening, delivery trucks rumbling, the faint chatter of pedestrians. Every sound, every movement informs his decisions. He has learned that awareness is not passive. It is active, requiring constant attention and reflection. Life inside the family is structured, governed by rituals that are both subtle and profoundly influential. Initiations, handshakes, the careful way names are spoken, all are imbued with significance. Paul observes these rituals with keen understanding, noting how each gesture reinforces hierarchy, loyalty, and respect. The omerta, the code of silence, is omnipresent, guiding behavior and shaping interactions. One word spoken inappropriately, one casual remark shared outside the circle, can unravel years of careful planning. Both Paul and Joe internalize this, though in different ways. Paul approaches it as strategy, Valachi as caution and survival. Daily routines reinforce these lessons. Paul attends meetings with both business figures and family associates, blending legitimate enterprise with hidden influence. He reviews ledgers, plans logistics, and mediates disputes. Even seemingly mundane interactions, ordering a meal, greeting a visitor, arranging a meeting, are executed with precision, each one reinforcing his reputation as composed, intelligent, and reliable. His calm demeanor masks a mind constantly calculating, evaluating risks and opportunities, and anticipating the reactions of both allies and adversaries. Joe's days are equally filled with careful attention. He delivers messages, observes patterns, and carries out tasks that, while minor on the surface, are critical to the family's cohesion. He witnesses enforcement actions, negotiations, and private deliberations, cataloging each as a lesson in power and human behavior. He begins to notice the subtle ways fear and respect are intertwined, how trust is earned incrementally, and how loyalty is maintained not only through rituals but through consistent, reliable action. Evenings bring a quieter rhythm, though the city never truly rests. Paul might walk along a quiet waterfront, reflecting on the day's decisions, anticipating tomorrow's challenges. The harbor glimmers under the soft glow of lamps, the river carrying the hum of distant ships. Each moment of calm is an opportunity for reflection, a pause to integrate lessons and refine strategy. Similarly, Joe leans against a fire escape railing, listening to the faint murmur of the city below, contemplating loyalty, danger, and the subtle interplay of human motives. The family itself operates as a complex organism, with each member understanding their role and adhering to the implicit rules that govern interaction. Meetings are often marked by silence more than speech, by observation more than declaration. Paul and Joe, though at different levels and with different temperaments, internalize these dynamics. They learn the rhythm of power, how to influence, when to step back, and how to maintain authority without overt displays of force. As night falls, Brooklyn and Manhattan settle into a softer cadence. The streets grow quieter, though the distant echoes of industry and transportation persist. Paul and Joe continue their respective routines, preparing for the unseen challenges that tomorrow may bring. Their paths, though separate, are beginning to parallel each other in ways not yet visible. The rituals, routines, and coded behaviors of the family are shaping them, honing skills that will define their influence and survival within the hidden world they inhabit. The omerta, ever present, is both shield and constraint. It protects the family from exposure but demands discipline and vigilance. Joe feels the weight of this code acutely. Every word, every glance, every action is measured against it. Paul, in contrast, leverages it strategically, understanding how the silent adherence of others can maintain cohesion, avert conflicts, and project authority without confrontation. You, walking beside them, feel the rhythm of these lives, the interwoven patterns of loyalty, observation, and calculated action. The city breathes around you, a living backdrop for the unfolding story. Every clatter of a distant streetcar, every soft murmur from a window above, every faint whisper in an alley adds texture to the narrative, carrying you gently into the intricate world of the Mafia's hidden operations. And as the night deepens, you feel the calm yet deliberate pulse of life within the family. Paul and Joe move through it, each in his own way, learning, observing, and preparing for the future. Their journeys, though distinct, are bound by the same structures, the same rituals, and the same unspoken codes that define survival, influence, and the quiet exercise of power. You walk with them, immersed in the rhythm, and sense that the story, rich in lessons and quiet tension, is only beginning to unfold fully. The city of New York breathes a complex rhythm, one that pulses quietly through the streets, alleys, and high-rise offices alike. In the 1950s, Brooklyn hums with industrial activity, Manhattan glimmers with business ambition, and the hidden currents of power, subtle, pervasive, and dangerous, flow just beneath the surface. You walk alongside Paul Castellano now, fully immersed in his role as an emerging leader of the Gambino family, and alongside Joe Valachi, whose vigilance and cautious intelligence continue to grow with each passing day. For Paul, power has become both a tool and a weight. His decisions now influence more than the immediate neighborhood. They ripple through the entire family, affecting allies, rivals, and the delicate balance of operations across New York. He moves carefully, calculating each action, anticipating reactions, and measuring the consequences. A handshake in a backroom, a casual remark during a meeting, even the subtle inflection of his voice can shift alliances, calm tensions, or ignite suspicion. The elegance for which he is known, the Dapper Don persona, is more than style. It is armor, a method of projecting calm authority while navigating dangerous waters. Rivalries abound. Other families watch, waiting for missteps, ready to exploit even the smallest signs of weakness. Street-level disputes, disagreements over territory, and competition for influence create an environment charged with tension. Paul studies these dynamics meticulously. He learns to read men as if they were books, noting subtle shifts in posture, tone, and eye movement. Each observation informs strategy, each decision balances risk with opportunity. His ability to remain composed under scrutiny, to anticipate both ally and adversary alike, strengthens his reputation and his control. Meanwhile, Joe Valachi feels the city differently. Manhattan's narrow streets and crowded tenements are alive with hidden pressures. He senses the danger in every handshake, the significance behind every whispered conversation. Life inside the Mafia is increasingly a matter of perception. A misread gesture could be fatal, a misjudged allegiance could unravel years of careful work. Valachi internalizes the lessons of patience, observation, and self-preservation. He knows that loyalty must be balanced with awareness, and that survival often depends more on understanding people than on physical strength. Power within the family itself is not without its pressures. Members must constantly navigate internal rivalries, disputes over assignments, and questions of loyalty. Paul observes these tensions carefully. Discreet conversations in private offices reveal unspoken grievances. while casual social gatherings expose subtle alliances. He learns that managing a family requires as much diplomacy as strategy. Every encounter is an opportunity to consolidate influence, defuse potential conflicts, or signal strength without aggression. The atmosphere is one of quiet tension. Even in moments of apparent calm, undercurrents of suspicion and caution flow. Paul senses them, assessing potential threats and preparing contingencies. He understands that power is never absolute. It is conditional, dependent on perception, respect, and the careful maintenance of relationships. One misstep, one rash decision, could ignite conflicts that would reverberate through the family and the city at large. Valachi experiences this tension differently. Fear is more immediate, personal. He navigates the street-level consequences of rivalry and betrayal. Encounters with associates, observations of enforcement operations, and lessons from older men all reinforce the precariousness of life within the Mafia. He learns that the line between loyalty and self-preservation is thin, and that understanding the motivations of others is crucial to survival. Even casual interactions, a glance from a superior, a whispered instruction, carry lessons in hierarchy, influence, and caution. As days turn into weeks, Paul begins to integrate his understanding of both business and power. He negotiates with allies, manages disputes quietly, and strengthens the family's position through subtle, calculated moves. His reputation for composed authority earns respect and cautious deference from both colleagues and rivals. The Dapper Don persona becomes a psychological tool, signaling calm control while masking the constant calculation beneath. Valachi, in parallel, hones his instincts. He begins to notice patterns in behavior, recurring disputes, and the subtle ways fear is used to maintain order. He observes men of influence and notes how authority is exercised without visible effort, how silence and discretion enforce hierarchy, and how trust is both earned and tested. These lessons accumulate, forming a mental map of power dynamics that will guide him through the most challenging decisions of his later life. Night descends over Brooklyn and Manhattan, carrying with it the soft hum of distant traffic, the faint flicker of neon lights, and the whisper of activity along the waterfront. Paul strolls along the quiet pier, reflecting on the day's events, considering potential threats, and imagining possible strategies for future stability. Valachi leans against a fire escape, listening to the city breathe, contemplating loyalty, fear, and the subtle interplay of influence and obligation. Even in moments of calm, the weight of responsibility presses gently upon them. For Paul, each decision has long-reaching consequences. For Valachi, each observation could mean life or death. They move in parallel through the city's hidden veins, their paths yet to cross directly, yet intertwined in ways that history will later reveal. The rituals of the family continue, reinforcing loyalty and hierarchy. Initiations, ceremonies, and subtle codes of conduct guide daily life. Paul navigates these with strategy, Valachi with vigilance. The omerta, the code of silence, remains central. For Paul, it is a tool to maintain cohesion and control. For Valachi, it is both a shield and a source of tension, reminding him constantly of the precarious balance between obedience and personal survival. And so, as the night deepens, the city hums softly, a lullaby of hidden power and careful observation. You walk alongside Paul and Joe, sensing the quiet tension, the subtle rivalries, and the growing awareness that every move matters. The streets breathe around them, alive with possibility and danger, yet carrying a rhythm that lulls you gently into calm reflection. The stage is set. Power is growing, rivalries are simmering, and the paths of Paul Castellano and Joe Valachi continue to unfold, each shaped by vigilance, observation, and the intricate dance of influence in New York's hidden world. You, the observer, feel the pulse of history, the gentle cadence of preparation, and the quiet suspense that will carry into the chapters ahead. The city is quieter now, though New York never truly rests. Streetlights reflect softly on damp pavement, their glow mingling with the faint flicker of neon signs. From afar, the muffled rumble of distant trains and the soft clatter of night traffic create a gentle, almost hypnotic rhythm. You walk alongside Paul Castellano, now fully embedded in the Gambino family's inner circle, and Joe Valachi, whose cautious observation and growing understanding of loyalty continue to guide his every move. The stage is set for subtle conflicts, hidden alliances, and the delicate balance between discretion and ambition. Paul moves with the precision of a man who knows that even the smallest gesture can carry significant weight. His reputation as the Dapper Don has spread beyond Brooklyn, and men in other families watch him with a mixture of respect, envy, and wariness. A misplaced word or ill-timed action could ignite tensions, and Paul is acutely aware of this. Yet he remains calm, deliberate, and composed, mastering the art of quiet influence. In private meetings, whispered discussions, and discreet gatherings, secrets accumulate like invisible threads. Paul learns not only who can be trusted but also who is capable of betrayal. He observes men who outwardly show loyalty but whose eyes betray subtle ambition, and he begins to plan contingencies. Every handshake, every nod, every pause carries meaning. By carefully managing these interactions, Paul strengthens his control, ensuring that the Gambino family operates smoothly while minimizing internal conflict. Meanwhile, Joe Valachi continues to navigate the labyrinthine hierarchy of the Mafia. He senses tension everywhere, from casual glances in crowded rooms to the subtle weight of words unspoken. Secrets circulate, hidden under layers of code and ritual. Valachi absorbs them, understanding that knowledge is both a weapon and a shield. He is learning that betrayal is often not loud or violent. It is whispered in the shadows, hinted at in seemingly innocuous actions, and enacted quietly over time. His vigilance is constant, his instincts sharpened by the awareness that any misstep could have serious consequences. Both men are increasingly aware of the precarious balance of power. Paul relies on strategy, observation, and careful diplomacy. Valachi relies on vigilance, discretion, and an acute understanding of human behavior. Their paths are still separate, yet the threads of their lives begin to intersect through shared alliances, mutual acquaintances, and the broader dynamics of the Mafia. As rivalries simmer, betrayals are rarely announced. A subtle shift in tone, a late-night phone call, or an unexpected visit can carry implications that ripple through the family. Paul studies these occurrences meticulously, identifying patterns and assessing risks. He calculates potential outcomes and prepares for contingencies, understanding that power is both fragile and fluid. Valachi experiences these moments differently. Every rumor, every secret, every shadowed interaction feels weighty, almost tangible. The anxiety that accompanies his awareness is constant, but it is tempered by knowledge gained through careful observation. He is beginning to understand the complex web of loyalty, obligation, and fear that binds the Mafia together, and he is learning to navigate it with subtlety. Even within the family, trust is never absolute. Paul notices minor infractions, subtle signs of disloyalty, and hesitations in decision-making. Each observation is catalogued, analyzed, and used to guide his actions. He moves deliberately, ensuring that his decisions reinforce cohesion while minimizing the risk of disruption. The elegance and composure that define him are more than mere appearances. They are tools of influence, signaling authority without confrontation. Valachi, on the other hand, feels the weight of secrets on a personal level. He witnesses the quiet tension of men balancing loyalty with ambition, of individuals torn between personal gain and family obligation. Each observation is a lesson, each interaction a test of judgment. He begins to anticipate moves before they occur, learning to act in ways that preserve his position and protect his life. The night stretches on, carrying with it a sense of quiet anticipation. Shadows lengthen, and the city hums with hidden activity. Paul and Valachi move through their respective worlds, acutely aware of the stakes, yet guided by the rhythm of observation, calculation, and cautious interaction. Their paths, though separate, are now linked by the invisible currents of influence, trust, and secrecy. Occasionally, moments of tension break through the calm. A whispered disagreement, a subtle challenge, or the discovery of minor disloyalty can shift dynamics instantly. Paul handles these situations with measured authority, balancing firmness with discretion. Valachi observes, learns, and adapts, understanding that knowledge is power and that foresight is survival. In the quiet hours before dawn, the city's rhythm becomes almost hypnotic. The faint clatter of distant trains, the soft rustle of leaves along the sidewalks, and the low murmur of nocturnal activity create a backdrop for reflection. Paul considers the hidden currents of loyalty and ambition, planning the family's moves carefully to maintain stability. Valachi contemplates the delicate balance between obedience and self-preservation, internalizing lessons that will shape his later decisions. And as the night deepens, the city exhales softly, carrying the hidden stories of power, secrecy, and subtle betrayal. You, walking alongside these men, feel the quiet tension, the careful observation, and the immersive pulse of history unfolding. The story continues, building with each measured step, each calculated glance, and each secret held or revealed. By dawn, the stage is set for even greater challenges, deeper betrayals, and decisions that will ripple across the family and the city. Paul Castellano and Joe Valachi, moving through shadows and whispers, are now fully aware of the stakes, each in his own way mastering the hidden currents of influence. You feel the rhythm of their worlds, the weight of secrets, and the gentle cadence of a story that grows ever more intricate, carrying you toward the next chapter of quiet suspense and immersive reflection. The nights in New York have a way of whispering secrets. The streetlights cast long, angular shadows across brick sidewalks, and the faint hum of distant trains resonates like a heartbeat beneath the city. You walk alongside Joe Valachi now, feeling the weight of his internal struggle. Each step carries caution, each glance carries awareness, as he navigates a world bound by loyalty, fear, and the silent code of the Mafia, the Omerta. Joe has spent years absorbing the lessons of this hidden world. He knows the importance of discretion, the unspoken hierarchy, and the delicate balance between obedience and survival. Yet now, a tension builds within him, quiet, persistent, unrelenting. He senses that the very code he has lived by may demand more than he can endure, and that silence, once a shield, could become a cage. In the dim glow of a fire escape overlooking the East River, Joe contemplates the choice before him. He recalls every whispered threat, every subtle act of disloyalty, and every moment where survival hung by a thread. He feels the duality of the Mafia world, the allure of belonging and power, intertwined with the constant shadow of danger and betrayal. The Omerta has guided his life, but now he realizes, breaking it may be the only path to preserve both truth and self. Across the city, Paul Castellano moves through his routines with the same calm precision that has earned him his reputation. The Dapper Don persona shields him from immediate threats, yet he is not unaware of the tension that permeates his environment. He senses shifts in loyalty, hears rumors that circulate in hushed tones, and anticipates the possibility of challenges from within and outside the family. Yet his focus remains deliberate and composed. He trusts in strategy, calculation, and measured authority to maintain control. For Joe, the decision crystallizes in small, quiet moments. A whispered conversation overheard in a hallway, a hint of vulnerability in a senior associate, the subtle pressure from law enforcement, all converge into a single realization: to navigate the dangerous currents of his world, he must act decisively. Cooperating with the authorities, sharing knowledge that has been closely guarded for decades, is not a betrayal of courage. It is a calculated step toward survival and understanding. The process begins cautiously. Meetings with agents are conducted with precision, each word carefully chosen, each gesture deliberate. Joe recounts what he knows, revealing patterns of behavior, alliances, and hidden operations. The weight of these revelations is immense, both for him and for the broader structure of organized crime. Yet even in the quiet of disclosure, he maintains vigilance. He knows the shadows of the Mafia linger everywhere, and even the smallest misstep could have consequences. Meanwhile, Paul continues to consolidate influence within the Gambino family. His style, measured, sophisticated, strategic, keeps immediate threats at bay, but he cannot ignore the subtle tremors that ripple through the organization. Decisions, loyalties, and rivalries shift in ways that are often invisible to outsiders. He relies on observation, careful management, and psychological insight to maintain authority, understanding that power is fragile, contingent on perception as much as action. The intersection of their worlds grows more apparent. Joe's revelations begin to unsettle the delicate equilibrium of power. Subtle tremors ripple through families as trusted men are scrutinized, alliances reconsidered, and internal hierarchies challenged. For Paul, these changes are both a risk and a signal, a reminder that the structures he has cultivated require constant attention, careful management, and adaptability. Nighttime in Manhattan becomes a quiet backdrop for reflection. Joe walks the streets slowly, listening to the faint hum of activity, the distant subway, and the occasional footsteps of a late-night pedestrian. Each sound grounds him, each shadow reminds him of the stakes, each memory of past loyalty and observed betrayal informs his careful navigation of disclosure. The city, though alive, seems to hold its breath, carrying him along in a rhythm that is both tense and oddly soothing. Paul, in Brooklyn, strolls along a quiet waterfront, the reflection of city lights rippling across the water. He contemplates the balance between public perception and private authority, understanding that the survival and growth of the family depend on both discretion and foresight. He feels the pulse of the city, the undercurrents of influence, and the subtle patterns of risk and reward. Each decision he makes, each subtle action, contributes to maintaining equilibrium in a world governed by whispers and careful observation. The act of breaking the Omerta is monumental, yet quiet. It is not dramatic in the way outsiders might imagine. It is deliberate, calculated, and measured. Joe's courage is not loud, it is patient, reflective, and deeply aware of consequence. Each revelation, each testimony, each piece of knowledge shared with law enforcement represents a step into the unknown, a redefinition of loyalty, and a calculated negotiation with destiny itself. Even as the weeks unfold, both men continue to shape their respective worlds. Paul's strategic elegance maintains cohesion and authority within the Gambino family. Joe's disclosures slowly unravel the hidden codes that have guided organized crime for generations. The tension is palpable yet understated, a quiet dance of influence, survival, and consequence that stretches across the city, through alleys, offices, and waterfronts. As night turns toward dawn, the city hums gently, a soft backdrop to the unfolding drama. Joe pauses, reflecting on the weight of knowledge, the complexity of loyalty, and the courage required to step beyond tradition. Paul watches, plans, and adjusts, aware that stability demands vigilance, foresight, and the careful orchestration of human behavior. And you, walking alongside them, feel the immersive rhythm of their lives, the delicate balance of trust and fear, the quiet tension of power, and the subtle unfolding of history. The story continues, building in depth, nuance, and insight, guiding you gently into reflection, calm observation, and the immersive cadence of New York's hidden world. The chambers of the United States Senate are grand, silent, and imposing. The room carries the weight of law, history, and authority. You walk alongside Joe Valachi as he steps into this space, the air cool and resonant, filled with the subtle hum of anticipation. The polished wood gleams under soft overhead lighting, and the subtle shuffle of papers and quiet murmurs create a rhythm that seems almost meditative. Outside, the city continues its restless motion, oblivious to the quiet drama unfolding within these walls. Joe's heart beats steadily, though beneath the calm exterior there is tension, an awareness of the magnitude of what he is about to do. Years of careful observation, disciplined adherence to the omerta, and cautious navigation of the hidden world of the Mafia have led to this moment. The choice to speak, to reveal what has been guarded in shadows for decades, is monumental. And yet, there is a clarity to his purpose, a quiet resolve that steadies him as he approaches the lectern. Paul Castellano in Brooklyn moves through his day with his usual calm precision. He is aware of whispers, rumors, and subtle shifts within the family, though the full scope of Valachi's decision has not yet reached him. His strategic mind anticipates disruption even before it occurs. Authority, he knows, must be maintained through careful observation, measured action, and the ability to project composure regardless of the unseen pressures pressing in from all sides. Valachi begins his testimony, his voice calm, deliberate, measured. Each word carries weight, not only for those listening in the chamber but for the intricate web of alliances, rivalries, and loyalties that stretch across the Mafia world. He recounts names, events, rituals, and codes, each detail a revelation, a thread that exposes the hidden structures of organized crime. The atmosphere in the chamber is hushed, the listeners attentive to every nuance, aware that history is unfolding quietly, deliberately, in real time. The act of speaking is both liberating and dangerous. Valachi's disclosures illuminate the inner workings of the Mafia, revealing rituals, hierarchies, and operations that had previously existed only in shadow. Every description he provides is measured, ensuring accuracy while maintaining caution. The weight of responsibility sits heavily on his shoulders. He is aware that lives, reputations, and power structures are at stake. The balance between truth and discretion is delicate, and each word is chosen with care. Paul, in his Brooklyn office, senses subtle tremors of change. The influence of Valachi's revelations spreads quietly but inexorably. Men within the family and in allied circles adjust their behavior, recalibrate their loyalties, and reconsider their alliances. Paul observes, calculates, and prepares responses that maintain stability while minimizing disruption. His composure, his elegance, and his strategic insight allow him to navigate this new reality without panic or rash action. Meanwhile, the city outside the Senate chambers continues its rhythm. Distant trains hum, streetcars clatter, and soft conversations float from late-night diners and cafes. This steady cadence provides a backdrop for Valachi's historic disclosures. Each testimony adds layers of understanding, context, and consequence, revealing the delicate machinery that governs loyalty, fear, and influence within organized crime. As the hours pass, Valachi details not only operations but also the human elements, the motivations, fears, and ambitions that drive men to acts of loyalty or betrayal. His reflections are calm, immersive, and precise, painting a picture of a hidden world with clarity and insight. He speaks of rituals, ceremonies, and codes that maintain cohesion, yet also notes how ambition and fear create tension, rivalry, and opportunity. For Paul, the consequences are subtle but tangible. The structure he has carefully maintained is exposed to scrutiny, both public and internal. He responds with discretion, strategic adjustments, and calm authority. The Dapper Don persona allows him to maintain composure even as the hidden currents shift. He understands that influence is as much about perception as action, and he navigates this period with careful, deliberate steps. Valachi's testimony resonates beyond the chamber. It sends ripples through New York's hidden world, altering alliances, shifting loyalties, and creating a cautious environment where every action is measured, every decision weighed. The quiet intensity of the moment mirrors the understated tension that has characterized both his and Paul's lives. Influence, power, and survival are achieved not through noise, but through precision, observation, and careful navigation. The evening settles over Manhattan and Brooklyn. Lights flicker softly in apartments and brownstones, the city humming a lullaby of distant activity. Valachi leaves the chamber, contemplative yet relieved, aware of the impact of his disclosures. Paul continues his walk along the Brooklyn waterfront, reflecting on the subtle transformations in the family and city that Valachi's revelations have set into motion. Both men, in different ways, are navigating the evolving dynamics of loyalty, power, and consequence. You, the observer, feel the calm rhythm of these worlds, the quiet tension, the immersive insights, and the gentle unfolding of history. The story continues to flow, building depth, nuance, and reflection, guiding you gently through a narrative rich with observation, decision, and the subtle interplay of human behavior. By nightfall, the stage is set for further challenges, strategic adjustments, and the ongoing navigation of trust, loyalty, and influence. Paul Castellano and Joe Valachi, each moving within their own domain, now exist in a world subtly altered by disclosure and reflection. You sense the intricate balance of power, the quiet suspense, and the gentle cadence of lives intertwined through history, decisions, and the hidden currents of New York's secret world. The streets of Brooklyn carry a quiet tension, even in the gentle glow of dusk. Streetlights cast long shadows across brick sidewalks, the occasional clatter of a passing car echoing softly in the distance. You walk alongside Paul Castellano, fully aware of the intricate web he navigates. The Gambino family is a living organism, filled with subtle hierarchies, hidden rivalries, and unspoken obligations. Every interaction, every decision, every glance can alter the balance of power. Paul's day begins in the quiet calm of his brownstone office, the polished wood reflecting the fading sunlight. He reviews ledgers, correspondence, and reports of operations. Even seemingly mundane details, a late shipment, a minor dispute, a slight hesitation in a subordinate, carry significance. He catalogs each observation, considering how it might influence future decisions. His mind is a precise instrument, measuring risk, opportunity, and human behavior with meticulous care. The challenges are both internal and external. Within the Gambino family, loyalties are tested by ambition. Some members bristle at Castellano's strategic, white-collar approach, preferring more traditional, aggressive methods. Rivalries simmer quietly beneath the surface. Disagreements over assignments, territory, and influence arise in hushed conversations and subtle gestures. Paul manages these tensions with calm authority, careful diplomacy, and an understanding of psychology that few others possess. He anticipates conflicts before they emerge, mitigating potential crises with tactful interventions and strategic adjustments. External pressures also persist. Other Mafia families, law enforcement scrutiny, and shifts in the socio-political landscape all demand attention. Paul evaluates the subtle cues from rival families, changes in alliances, movements of personnel, whispers of grievances. Every signal is an opportunity to reinforce stability, protect the family, and project authority without overt confrontation. His decisions are deliberate, each calibrated to maintain cohesion and preempt disruption. Amid these responsibilities, Paul maintains his signature composure. The Dapper Don persona, sharp suit, composed demeanor, quiet authority, functions as both armor and signal. It projects calm, instills confidence, and subtly discourages challenges. Yet beneath the elegance lies constant calculation. Every meeting, every handshake, every conversation is analyzed for risk, opportunity, and potential consequences. His life is a careful choreography of strategy and perception, each step measured, each gesture intentional. Meanwhile, Joe Valachi observes the effects of these dynamics from the periphery. Manhattan streets, alleys, and apartments carry whispers of the shifts occurring in Brooklyn. Valachi notices subtle changes in the behavior of associates, shifts in communication patterns, and the quiet ripple of influence extending outward from Castellano's decisions. The world of organized crime is interconnected, and even distant actions reverberate in ways both subtle and profound. Internal challenges within the family demand careful navigation. Paul mediates disputes between lieutenants, reassesses roles and responsibilities, and addresses perceived slights with discretion. Public displays of aggression are minimized. Instead, strategic interventions, quiet discussions, and subtle reminders of loyalty reinforce his authority. Each decision is a balancing act, maintaining power, preventing rebellion, and ensuring the smooth functioning of the organization. Occasionally, tensions escalate despite caution. Rumors of disloyalty, miscommunication, and resentment emerge. Paul approaches these situations with careful observation and measured responses. He listens more than he speaks, observes body language, and gauges reactions before acting. Decisions are never rushed. They are deliberate, grounded in experience and foresight. His ability to project calm while navigating complexity solidifies his reputation as a composed and effective leader. As evening falls, Paul steps outside, walking along the quiet streets of Brooklyn. The harbor glimmers under the soft glow of lamps, and the distant hum of ferries and trains provides a rhythmic backdrop. He reflects on the day's events, considering potential threats, alliances, and opportunities. His mind moves through scenarios with precision, anticipating outcomes and planning contingencies. Even in moments of solitude, his awareness is sharp, his strategy ongoing. Valachi, observing from Manhattan, senses the subtle ripples of Castellano's decisions. He notes the behaviors, the adjustments, and the reactions within the network of organized crime. His own understanding of loyalty, authority, and survival deepens, informed by the quiet interplay of influence and strategy that Paul exemplifies. The two men, moving in parallel, are connected through the currents of power and consequence, each shaping and responding to a hidden world that is both structured and fragile. The night deepens and the city hums with gentle activity. Lights flicker softly across windows and street lamps, distant traffic clatters, and the low murmur of late-night pedestrians drifts through alleys. Paul continues his walk, reflecting on authority, loyalty, and the subtle orchestration required to maintain stability. Every decision, every gesture, every word is a thread in the intricate tapestry of influence he manages with calm precision. And you, walking alongside him, feel the rhythm of his world, the quiet tension, the strategic patience, and the delicate balance of power. The challenges he navigates are immense, yet his composure guides you gently through the unfolding narrative, allowing you to absorb the intricacies of loyalty, strategy, and human behavior. The story continues to expand, building depth, nuance, and reflection, preparing the stage for the next chapter of subtle suspense and immersive observation. The city of New York stretches quietly beneath the early evening sky, a mosaic of lights, streets, and buildings, each carrying the weight of history, action, and consequence. You walk alongside Paul Castellano, who now moves with the full authority of the Gambino family at his back, and Joe Valachi, whose disclosures have rippled through the world of organized crime, changing its very foundations. The tension, once silent and subtle, now manifests as a series of measured adjustments, realignments, and reflections, shaping the paths of both men and the city itself. Paul begins the evening in his Brooklyn office, reviewing reports and reflecting on the ripple effects of Valachi's revelations. The Dapper Don persona, sharp, composed, strategic, remains intact, yet beneath the calm exterior lies the careful evaluation of every potential consequence. Minor disputes, previously hidden rivalries, and subtle shifts in loyalty must be addressed. Each interaction is deliberate, designed to maintain stability, assert authority, and prevent small tremors from becoming larger disruptions. Paul understands that in the world he navigates, perception is as critical as action. Meanwhile, in Manhattan, Joe Valachi reflects on the magnitude of his choices. His decision to break the omerta, to cooperate with the Senate and law enforcement, has forever altered the landscape of the Mafia. The consequences are both profound and personal. Friends, colleagues, and associates recalibrate their behavior. Alliances shift, suspicions rise, and the invisible web of loyalty is stretched and reshaped. Valachi experiences a mixture of relief, apprehension, and introspection. The world he once navigated with caution and silence now feels exposed, yet the act of disclosure brings clarity, understanding, and a sense of personal agency he had not known before. The duality of these experiences, Paul's strategic consolidation of power and Valachi's careful revelation of secrets highlights the intricate balance of influence and consequence. Paul manages challenges both internal and external, addressing disputes quietly, asserting authority without aggression, and reinforcing the cohesion of his family. Valachi continues to navigate the repercussions of his disclosures, aware of the delicate interplay of loyalty, fear, and survival that now governs the behavior of those around him. As night falls, the city hums with subtle activity. Streetlights cast gentle glows on brick buildings, distant trains rumble softly in their tunnels, and occasional footsteps echo along empty sidewalks. Paul strolls along the Brooklyn waterfront, contemplating the evolving dynamics of the family. Each decision he has made, each subtle maneuver, now reverberates quietly, influencing the behavior of associates, rivals, and allies alike. He observes the calm surface of the East River, its gentle ripples reflecting the soft light of the city, and finds clarity in the rhythm and predictability of nature, a stark contrast to the unpredictable currents of human behavior he manages daily. Valachi, in contrast, finds himself walking the quieter streets of Manhattan, reflecting on the personal and systemic consequences of his choices. The knowledge he has shared carries weight not only for himself but for the entire structure of organized crime. Patterns emerge as he observes reactions, noting adjustments in alliances, shifts in hierarchy, and subtle changes in conduct among former associates. Even in this quiet reflection, he learns that influence, trust, and loyalty are constantly negotiated, and that the act of disclosure is as much about understanding human behavior as it is about survival. The lessons of consequence extend beyond the immediate sphere of influence. Paul's strategic foresight and composed authority allow him to anticipate potential disruptions, preventing minor conflicts from escalating. Valachi's insights provide historical perspective, illuminating patterns of behavior, human motivation, and the fragile balance of loyalty and self-interest. The city itself seems to breathe around them, a silent observer of the unfolding interplay of action and reaction, choice and consequence. Evening merges into night, soft and unhurried. The glow of streetlights, the distant hum of traffic, and the occasional murmur of night activity create a gentle backdrop for contemplation. Paul reflects on the impermanence of control, the necessity of observation, and the subtle art of leadership. Valachi contemplates the permanence of choice, the ripple effects of truth, and the responsibility that comes with knowledge. Both men, in their distinct ways, navigate the complex interplay of action, consequence, and reflection. In this quiet, immersive world, the lessons of history, power, and human behavior unfold softly, allowing you, the observer, to feel the rhythm of thought, strategy, and reflection. The city hums, carrying the subtle pulse of influence and awareness through its streets, alleys, and waterfronts. Every decision, every observation, every reflection contributes to the intricate narrative, preparing the stage for resolution, contemplation, and closure. As the night deepens further, Paul and Joe pause in their respective reflections. The city is calm, yet alive, a living tapestry of human activity and hidden currents. Both men, shaped by experience, strategy, and the consequences of their choices, continue to influence their world, each in his own domain. You sense the quiet weight of their actions, the unfolding of history in subtle, almost imperceptible shifts, and the immersive rhythm of lives intertwined with consequence, strategy, and reflection. The night stretches onward, carrying you gently through this intricate web of influence, loyalty, and insight. The city hums softly, the lights flicker like distant stars, and the stories of Paul Castellano and Joe Valachi flow seamlessly, drawing you into contemplation, understanding, and calm immersion. Their actions, decisions, and reflections now set the stage for the final chapter, where history will gently resolve, leaving you enveloped in a sense of closure, reflection, and quiet understanding. The city of New York lies quiet under the soft glow of streetlights, the hum of distant traffic and the occasional rumble of trains forming a gentle rhythm that carries through the streets and alleys. Brooklyn, Manhattan, and the waterfront all shimmer with a muted calm, reflecting a world both alive and at rest. You walk alongside Paul Castellano and Joe Valachi, feeling the weight of the choices, challenges, and revelations that have shaped their lives. This is the final chapter of a story woven through loyalty, power, secrecy, and the subtle currents of influence. Paul Castellano, the Dapper Don, moves with his characteristic composure. His presence exudes calm, yet beneath that elegance lies the knowledge of a lifetime spent observing, calculating, and navigating complexity. The Gambino family has weathered challenges, rivalries, and subtle disruptions, and Paul's measured authority has maintained cohesion and stability. His lessons are clear. Power is as much about perception as action. Observation and foresight are indispensable. Composure in the face of uncertainty is both a shield and a tool. Joe Valachi walks the quieter streets of Manhattan, reflecting on the monumental choices he made. The decision to break the omerta, to testify before the Senate, and to reveal the intricate workings of organized crime changed not only his life but the world around him. Each revelation, measured and deliberate, illuminated patterns of loyalty, ambition, and fear that had remained hidden for decades. Valachi's experience teaches the subtle lesson that knowledge carries responsibility, that discretion and courage are inseparable, and that the consequences of truth unfold quietly but inevitably. The city itself seems to breathe alongside them, carrying the pulse of their journeys in a rhythm both gentle and persistent. Streetlights shimmer against brick buildings, reflecting softly on wet pavement. The distant hum of traffic, faint footsteps, and occasional whispers from late-night pedestrians create a soothing cadence that mirrors the quiet intensity of their lives. You feel the immersive pulse of history, the intricate balance of power and secrecy, and the gentle unfolding of decisions whose effects ripple far beyond immediate observation. Paul reflects on the delicate dance of leadership. He has learned that maintaining authority requires patience, observation, and the strategic use of influence. Subtle actions, a nod, a handshake, a quiet word, carry more weight than overt displays of power. He understands that human behavior is layered, that loyalty is complex, and that survival within a network of influence demands both tact and foresight. Each decision is a thread in the fabric of the family, weaving cohesion, respect, and authority into a delicate tapestry. Valachi reflects on the lessons of disclosure. The courage to speak, the discipline to measure each word, and the awareness of consequence have shaped not only his life but the understanding of a hidden world. He recognizes that loyalty and survival often exist in tension, that choices carry weight far beyond the immediate moment, and that reflection is as essential as action. By stepping into the light, Valachi illuminates both the human and structural dimensions of organized crime, providing insight into the interplay of fear, respect, and influence. As the night deepens, both men pause in quiet reflection. The city's rhythm continues around them, carrying the muted sounds of life that have persisted for generations. Brooklyn and Manhattan, once bustling with clandestine activity and quiet tension, now exhale gently, embracing a calm that mirrors the contemplative state of those who have navigated its shadows. The stories of Paul Castellano and Joe Valachi converge not in confrontation, but in the subtle lessons their lives impart: awareness, patience, courage, discretion, and the understanding that choices, even quiet ones, leave lasting impacts. You, walking beside them, absorb these lessons in a rhythm that is both reflective and soothing. The subtle interplay of strategy, observation, and consequence unfolds like a gentle narrative, guiding you through the quiet tension of human behavior, the intricacies of influence, and the soft cadence of history. Each step, each reflection, each whispered thought contributes to a sense of immersion that carries you forward, yet calms the mind, easing the journey toward restful sleep. The night stretches on, soft and endless. Streetlights flicker gently, windows glow with warm illumination, and distant sounds blend into a lullaby of urban life. Paul and Joe continue their separate walks, each embodying the lessons they have learned, each navigating the consequences of their choices. The city is alive, yet serene, a living tapestry that mirrors the complexity and quiet beauty of human experience. And as you drift alongside these men, the story settles into reflection. Loyalty, ambition, discretion, courage, and strategy, all intertwined, all gently revealed through their lives, leave you with a sense of understanding, calm, and closure. The shadows of New York, once filled with tension, intrigue, and quiet suspense, now soften into the gentle glow of insight and contemplation. The city exhales. The streets are still. The hum of distant activity fades into silence. And as you, the observer, breathe in the calm rhythm of this immersive world, you feel the subtle pull of rest, reflection, and the immersive comfort of history gently guiding you into sleep. The lessons from the shadows are clear. Observation, patience, and reflection shape not only the lives of those who navigate hidden currents of power but also the way we understand human behavior. With each soft step, the city, the men, and you move gently toward the quiet embrace of night, leaving the stories of Paul Castellano and Joe Valachi to linger softly in the mind, like distant echoes of wisdom, history, and calm. The city sleeps softly and deeply, and so do you.